Hello Year 10, this is lesson 4 of Fortnite on video games. Today's lesson we're going to be moving our focus from audience to industry, and we're going to be talking about how Epic Games makes a profit on Fortnite. Okay, there's a lot of information, so I'm going to get straight into it. Please make sure you're making notes as we go through. First thing I'd like you to do is pause the video and have a go at answering these 3 questions. See what you know about Fortnite already. So we've got which company developed Fortnite, name 2 different game modes developed under the Fortnite franchise, and briefly explain 2 other ways video game developers can make profit on a game. So aside from selling the game, what else can they do to make a profit on the game? Pause the video, give yourself just a couple of minutes to answer those questions, and then when you're ready, press play. Okay, so we're going to go through the answers now. The company that developed Fortnite was Epic Games. 2 different game modes you could have picked from these 3, Battle Royale, Creator or Save the World. We're going to focus particularly on Battle Royale and Save the World today, and briefly explain 2 other ways video game developers can make a profit on a game. These are some of the things you could have said. In-game purchases like skins and weapons, sometimes known as cosmetic purchases, so they're just changing the look of things. Battle Pass, merchandise like t-shirts, caps, toys and figures, so outside of the game you could sell merchandise, exclusive content that you pay for, events like conventions and tournaments, and synergy with other brands. So for example, Fortnite recently did a crossover with Star Wars and they'd have made money through their partnership with Star Wars. There's also maybe just general DLC or downloadable content, which might be more like a bigger expansion to the game that you're playing as well. So hopefully you got a couple of those. Okay, I'm going to give you some figures now in relation to Fortnite and its success. You don't need to know all these figures off by heart, but it is important that you know how much of an impact Fortnite has had on the video game industry. So if you could make some brief notes here as we're going through, pause the video at the end if you need a little bit more time. But Fortnite made approximately $2.4 billion in 2018. In 2019, it was $1.8 billion. So there was a slight drop, but it was still the most successful video game that year. In the first 10 months since its release in July 2017, Fortnite amassed an audience of 125 million players and netted $1.2 billion in revenue. It absolutely exploded. When the Fortnite app launched on the iPhone on April 1st, 2018, it made $2 million a day initially from players on Apple's iOS. Other games have made a revenue of $1 billion in their first year after launch, but Fortnite is the first game that has done it after releasing their game for free. So other games that have done this, you'll have had to have paid money initially. So that's games like, maybe you've heard of Dota 2 or League of Legends, games where you've had to pay, but they might have made a lot of money as well. Epic Games, which was reportedly valued at $15 billion in October 2018, as of March 2019, reported that there are 250 million people playing this game. So just over a year ago, 250 million people playing the game, and it's probably kept up just around the same there. So I've just fact-checked myself halfway through the video. There are now 350 million registered users of Fortnite. So it's increased by 100 million. Doesn't necessarily mean that's how many people are playing the game, but that's how many registered users there are in 2020. Okay, so pause the video if you need some time to make some notes there. Again, you don't need to know all of the tiny little figures off the top of your head, but you just need some indication of how massive the impact has been on the industry. So, I'm going to talk briefly about the main differences between Save the World and Battle Royale, which are the 2 major game modes in Fortnite. You may know this already, so pause the video, just have a think through what are the major differences that I can think of. And remember, we're thinking more of from an industry standpoint rather than getting into the tiny little details of the gameplay. So, Save the World. This is a player versus environment, or PvE, version of the game. This means you're not fighting other players online, you're facing against, basically playing against the computer, what the computer throws at you. You have to pay for this game mode. It costs about £35 for a founder's pack. They have frequently talked about the idea that this game mode will be made free, but that has been pushed back and it hasn't happened. So at the moment, if you want to play the Save the World game mode, you do have to pay for a founder's pack. Battle Royale, however, is a PvP mode, player versus player, which means you're fighting against other people, other real people in the world, and this version is free. So to just get on the game, access it and play it, it is free. So if you, for example, turn on your phone, you turn on your PlayStation, you turn on your PC and you download Fortnite, you will be playing the Battle Royale mode unless you pay for a founder's pack for Save the World. So Save the World did come out prior to Battle Royale, and in the Save the World game mode that you pay for, you can earn V-Bucks, which is a virtual currency, the money that you use in Fortnite. And you can use the V-Bucks that you earn in Save the World for purchases in Battle Royale. And my understanding is in Battle Royale you cannot earn V-Bucks. So there you start to see a little bit of the business model come into play. Because in order to buy new skins, new emotes, new weapons in Fortnite, you need to pay for them with V-Bucks. And in order to earn V-Bucks, you need to have paid for Save the World to access that. Or you can buy V-Bucks outright. So you can start to see, whilst Battle Royale is completely free, and if you were happy with what you get in that initial download, you can just play that forever. If you want to start changing things, the way your character looks, the things that the emotes that you can use, all these things, you are going to have to pay some money somewhere. So why did they decide to make Battle Royale free? Well, there's a whole history to this. There was some arguments in the early days of Fortnite and its Battle Royale mode. So there were legal reasons why they decided to make the Battle Royale mode completely free. This is important. Make sure you make notes on this because this is a key part of the history of Fortnite. So PUBG Corporation, who developed PUBG, which is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, were going to sue Epic Games for copyright. So just before Fortnite came out, PUBG was released, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. You can see in the bottom left there's the sort of artwork that's associated with it, and it's basically the same game as Fortnite. It was 100 people drop into a map and you fight until one person survives. And that was blowing up. It was becoming huge. It was really, really popular and successful. But then Epic Games released Fortnite, which was basically the exact same game mode, and it took over everything. It then completely blew PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds out of the water. And for that reason, because it was pretty much exactly the same thing, PUBG Corporation were going to sue Epic Games. Epic Games was originally upfront about Fortnite's Battle Royale inspiration. They said, yeah, we made a PvP mode for Fortnite. We love Battle Royale games like PUBG and thought Fortnite would make a great foundation for our own version. Both Epic Games and PUBG Corp are partly owned by Chinese firm Tencent, so they're both under the same conglomerate. And Tencent, if you've not heard of them, they are huge. They own more than you could possibly imagine. They're one of the largest firms in the world, and they own both of these companies. And Fortnite and PUBG also use the Epic Games Unreal Engine. So PUBG developed their game on this on the Unreal Engine, which is basically the engine is what you use to make the game, let's just say. And then Epic Games, who also use and actually own the Unreal Engine, just released this game. It was exactly the same, and were part of the same company. So the PUBG Corporation essentially said that this is not fair, you've just ripped us off. And so in order to avoid legal action, Epic Games said, well, we're not charging for Fortnite Battle Royale mode, it's free, it's just a free addition to our game. And that avoided the legal issues. Okay, please make some note of this. You don't have to copy it verbatim or word for word if you write it down in your own words. Okay, so some quick questions for you now to see what you've remembered. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to answer each one. Number one, which game development company threatened to sue Epic Games for copyright? Okay, the answer you should have is the PUBG Corporation. Question 2. What is the game engine that both PUBG and Fortnite use to develop their game? Okay, you should have the Unreal Engine. Question 3. What does PvP stand for? Okay, this is player versus player. What does PvE stand for? This is player versus environment. And finally, is Fortnite Save the World PvE or PvP? Which game mode is that? Okay, and the answer there is PvE, player versus the environment. Okay, so that's a quick overview for you of the industry. There's more to talk about. We're going to talk about synergy and conglomerates a little bit more, but you should now have an idea of how Fortnite makes money. What I'd like you to do as your task at the end of this lesson is consider this statement. All games developers should release their games for free. You're going to decide whether you agree, disagree, or partially agree, disagree with this statement. I want you to put together a presentation that would take you 1 minute. You should include the success of free and paid for games, refer to Epic Games and Fortnite, maybe talk about your own experiences of gaming if you have them, the benefits and problems of releasing games that are free, and information about how developers can create revenue in other ways using relevant examples. So you can either put this together as a slideshow, using images, etc., or if you don't have that capability, you could write a script for a presentation. Just to give you the other side of the story, because we've talked about how Fortnite makes its money. It's a free game and you can pay for cosmetics if you want them, and that sounds fine. But just to give you the other side of the coin, I suppose, for myself, for example, when I play games, what I like is a game that I play games like I watch movies. I pay for the game, I get the whole story, I get the whole thing, I get to play through it from beginning to end, I finish it and I say, brilliant, I've finished that game. Now, if those games were free, what would end up happening is you would have to, the company would have to make money somehow. So you think, well, how would that experience be affected by the fact that it's free? And that would be, well, you've got to pay in order to get further. You've got, for example, if you do this particular action, you'll level up, but really we want to encourage people to pay for that. So we'll charge for it, or we'll make it take absolutely ages in the game, and so people will be pushed to pay money for it instead. These are the kinds of things that might cause difficulties if all games were free. But that's for you to think about. Okay, so have a go putting together a presentation on this topic. All games developers should release their games for free. Do you agree or disagree? Please spend about 15-20 minutes working on that. Okay. So our key facts for this lesson then. You should now know that Epic Games developed Fortnite, that Save the World and Battle Royale are the two main game modes under the Fortnite franchise. Video game developers can make a profit on a game through in-game purchases, downloadable content, merchandise, exclusive content, events, and synergy with other brands. Fortnite, despite being free to play, made approximately $2.4 billion in 2018, the most successful game of that year, the most successful game of last year as well. And also, PUBG Corporation were going to sue Epic Games for copyright due to copying the game mode Battle Royale. This is why Epic Games made Fortnite free to play. I hope that's clear. I hope that makes sense. If there's anything you're not sure of, let me know in the chat. Thank you very much.